Okay, we'll move right to conduct of business. Our first item is going to be moved up. It's item 10F, adopt a resolution amending the fiscal year 2013-14 operating budget to add an administrative fire battalion chief position in the fire department.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council. Thank you very much for making that adjustment. It's much appreciated. Tonight, we're asking for the Council to take action to adopt the resolution, as was just described by the Mayor. When I was appointed in April of 2013, I basically stated that the current infrastructure that we were working under could probably last 12 to 18 months, and that was due to the 3 workers' comps, 3 payrolls, three different budgets, 10 different MOUs that we're working under, and in doing so, we have been meeting with the city managers monthly, all 4 city managers from all 4 of the cities. In December, met with the 4 city managers as usual, and we were discussing an 8-month basically analysis that I had put together that I presented to them and said, here we are with 8 months, basically halfway through that 12 to 18-month process. There were 3 areas of concerns that we had. One was budget issues, one was representation with chief officers and staffing concerns that we had, and the other was labor, employee relations that we had. For the most part, the last 2 that we discussed were the representation, the staffing concerns, and labor employee relations and oversight had to do primarily with San Bruno areas of, that we were working with, and primarily due because of the events that took place, the tragic events that took place in 2010, the draw on the staff required to deal with whether it's community meetings with agencies to try to further the safety of the community. There's been just a draw on staff time. So with that, San Bruno in 2006, when they started sharing services with Millbrae, before that time, San Bruno, we employed 5 full-time chief officers that were not shared. At the current time, we employ 2 chief officers that are both currently shared. So there's a total of 13 chief officers in our administrative merge. 2 of those are San Bruno employees, so about 15%. And the chief officers bring to the table an institutional knowledge that's important both at staff meetings when we have our command staff together and also in the community when we are participating at events or at community meetings for input. The last one is the labor oversight issue. Currently, San Bruno, we work under, we have a handful of policies. We're in the process of adopting about 160 policies that will be put into place for basically on how to do daily business and how things are to be run. With that, those policies to be put in place, the daily oversight that is needed to make sure that we instill that those policies are being consistently enforced and that they're being compliant and folks are doing what they're supposed to do. The last piece of it is the emergency preparedness position that the council and staff brought to council in the budget of last year and was approved by council. We have not yet filled it. We're in the process of, we've been discussing the position. In January and February, met with the city manager, Ms. Jackson, Tammy Yuki, the HR director, and the police chief, Neil Telford. And we've sat down, we discussed some different options on how to address not only the emergency preparedness position, but as well as additional the issues that we're having as far as on the fire side, and was there an answer that we could go ahead and address all of the concerns under one umbrella. And in doing so, we thought the most appropriate, cost-effective manner was the placement of an administrative battalion chief to take on the roles of emergency preparedness and also the oversight that we need, as well as a representation that is needed. So the budget impact on that is about $222,000 for the position. There is $101,712 that has already been approved by the council for the emergency preparedness position. So there's about $120,000 in additional annual costs for over a 2-year period of about $240,000. I did fail to mention that this position would be a temporary position of 2 years. to address it. We think we can address the concerns and get something up and running at what the council had probably initially directed as far as emergency preparedness, and also have the oversight issues and the representation issues taken care of as well. So with that, if there's any questions at all, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Any questions of the chief? Michael?
Thank you. So one of the questions I had for the city manager earlier was just around where we are with overall merging of the departments, and could this position have been avoided if the consolidation had gone faster? And I know there's a lot of reasons why it hasn't gone faster, but is this position something that I mean, is that one of the reasons why it's temporary? Are we looking at a 2-year horizon now for being farther along in the consolidation, or can
Well,
you kind of elaborate?
it's an excellent question, and I think to address it as far as, and I'll address it in two answers. One, where we're at as far as with the consolidation and the merger aspect of things, is we had hoped that we were probably a little bit farther along. We were hoping to have a shared station back in November. It was delayed and pushed back, and that was largely on an assessment that is being placed in Millbrae, a fire assessment that was going to originally be outcome in November of last year in 2013. And since that was postponed, it kind of pushed things back a little bit as far as moving forward. Now that'll be coming to a close in the next 45 days. We should have some answers on that piece. I do think that the events that took place in 2010, that when we initially started talking about that, had not yet taken place. And in doing so, I think there was an unexpected draw in trying to maintain the safety for the community and the involvement. There's just been a large draw on the chief officer staff. So we see that over a 2-year period, this being able to cover that. And I also think that, yes, as far as we are expecting out of our 13 chief officers in the next 5 years, not including this one, not knowing who's going to fill it if it passes, we will lose all 13 chief officers in the next 5 years. So we are trying to address succession planning as well. So I think we are looking at eventually cutting back on chief officers, but in the interim, I think the addition of a chief officer for succession planning as well would also be an added help and positive for it.
Okay. And can you kind of explain a little bit how a temporary position like that would be staffed? Would somebody be promoted into the position, and then at the end of the 2 years, if we decided not to continue, then that person would be demoted back to their previous position or moved into another comparable position?
So I think we have the options to do both of the above that you mentioned. Since we are going to have so much turnover that is going to be taking place, more than likely, in San Bruno, we have 9 captains and we have 2 chief officers. So that's 11 positions. Of those 11 positions, 7 of them will be retiring in the next 4 years. So there will be a place for this individual. If we eliminate the position, this person will either promote up into another position or to a chief officer position, or if we have to put him back as a captain, then we will put him back as a captain. There'll be a place for him to fall back to.
Okay. And as I recall, the last time we approved an administrative type position, there had to be some sort of an adjustment to sort of compensate for loss of overtime. And I'm wondering if that factor is built into the number that we're looking at today, and what happens to that person's salary when he goes from administrative to non-administrative, basically in the field, and then, I mean, how do we handle adjustments sort of down? It seems easy to ratchet someone up, probably a lot harder to ratchet them down.
And so actually we've done it a few times in a few areas, and I'm not sure as far as in the last one that took place, but usually there is an adjustment. I'm not sure as far as being loss of overtime is probably one of the issues. There's usually a 10% adjustment, 5 to 10% adjustment for individuals that are on shift that go to days because of not necessarily overtime, but they also lose other personal issues as far as in pay. So in order for somebody to go and take the position, there was no incentive, so there had to be some kind of adjustment to be made. So this is included in the salary at $222,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Through the chair. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Real quick, the mayor and I did meet as the subcommittee with the chief and manager. And to even further explain to my colleague, too, succession planning was a concern because obviously, as I was going to bring up the numbers of retirees. It's also about having San Bruno represented when they have the command staff that meets. Currently, we have 2. We have one BC chief who works 10 days based on the shift. And so therefore, it affords a person that can help also streamline and collaborate when it comes to the administrative policies and trying to merge the 3 agencies together, the 4 cities. They need more of that. So it's a matter of the succession planning, the representation, not only for the community, the residents, but also the department. It was something that I thought also we needed with the preparedness. That's something that we've already approved. It should be going forward, so we could take that as far as savings and merge those 2 tasks into one. So that's why the cost is not as much. And again, with the succession planning, we could see that position either maintaining in a chief level operation or in something else. So the mayor and I did meet, and we're in support of this recommendation, and we talked about it long and hard. But I think for the betterment of the department and the residents, this is a good avenue to go down.
Okay. Can I ask one follow-up question? Thank you.
Absolutely.
So in terms of what the other 2 agencies are doing, is there a comparable position in each of those agencies?
There are other chief officer positions. There is not a similar position that's doing emergency preparedness solely. We do have chief officers that are handling emergency preparedness, but they're doing fire prevention duties as well. So they have some other duties that they're handling as well. Correct.
If I could just expand on that answer, the greater organization, particularly the Central County organization, has other people not at the rank of administrative battalion chief whose sole responsibility is emergency preparedness. So I think the answer to your question is there is no other administrative BC level individual. There are other positions that fill varieties of the functions and the duties that are contemplated for this position. They're called different things, but generally that bundle of services is covered with different positions.
And so it makes it sound, and help me understand this, it makes it sound like there are cheaper ways to do what we want to do. We had funded a lower cost position to do some of these duties, clearly not all of them, but other cities have found ways to do the preparedness with employees other than somebody at this level. And so this solution gets us where we want to be in that arena, but it is a more expensive solution overall than what we had initially envisioned.
I would respectfully say it actually differently. This is the most cost-effective solution to the multiple staffing issues that we are attempting to address. It is correct that the emergency services or emergency preparedness coordinator position, as identified in the current year operating budget, would represent a full-time position at a lower cost. However, that position and no other position in our organization would be available to cover the fire administration, labor relations, and other issues that the chief has identified in the fire service. So our recommendation to you tonight represents the most cost-effective means by which we, in fact, what we did was we said, okay, there is an identified need for at least close to a full-time position in the fire service. What could we do to make that need filled as cost-effectively as possible? And that is what prompted our recommendation to consolidate the emergency services coordinator position with the need within the fire service in order to try and bundle that in the most cost-effective way. It provides a lower amount of time available for emergency preparedness at a higher level of capacity. In other words, the individual integrated into the fire service at the rank of battalion chief, we would expect to be able to perform sufficiently to meet the city's need with respect to emergency preparedness and to provide the additional coverage and issues that the chief has outlined.
And in terms of skill set, would somebody at that level perhaps maybe be a little too broad or broader in ability than somebody who would be specifically dedicated to doing preparedness, and maybe that's all they do, that's all they know, versus somebody at the chief level who has to be more, they have to be capable in a lot more things, not a jack of more trades rather than a specialist.
And if I may on that one, actually, so Central County Fire has a division chief that is actually in charge of emergency preparedness. So it's actually a higher rank than this rank that we're trying to, so it's actually more expensive. So we thought this rank, it could be handled at this lower rank at a more cost-effective manner. I think to get the city of San Bruno to the level that we need it to be at, I think having an individual that has the experience in the background in both the fire side of it, because most of these positions are held within the fire department or managed under the fire department, I think to address it would be best under that position.
I believe
Through the
Central
Chair, I was going to also say, for myself who attends the Emergency Services Council quarterly to represent the city at the county, I was going to just bring up that example that I see the staff that sits in the audience, and they have the white shirts and the gold badges, and it's not to say that anybody else can't represent. I think that you would, A, have an internal promotion, so obviously a person has tenure here, they understand the history of San Bruno. God knows that they've been here when we had our disaster, so they've seen firsthand, up close, something that only people could read about. They've somehow had some engagement and to understand where we can do better and where we need to do better. Other cities do have resources that are of higher cost to the organization to have that representation. So I think we do ourselves best by having somebody internal, succession, get the preparedness on the ground. Obviously, we haven't fully funded it this year, so that cost savings is already going to be initiated there, so it won't cost us the full amount. So, but anyway, so just to add to some of your great questions.
Thank you.
Mr.
Anything else?
Mayor, if I might just correct something, I just, for the purpose of public information, I think the chief accidentally used the figure of $220,000 as salary. I just want to be very clear, that's not salary, that is total cost of the position, which is a different number. So,
Right.
My apologies, yes.
Okay. Any other discussion or action by the council?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Two things, Chief. I think it'd be a good idea if you came back to us in 6 months and let us know how this is going. And then in the staff report, it's mentioned that every city department would be coordinated with. And I want to make sure you directly involve the city council there too. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.